Hello there all my yarn lovers. So in today's video I thought I would share a WIPS video with you. So basically all the things that I'm currently working on, my works in progress. One, because I thought it's something I enjoy watching others do, and so why not make my own, and I have a few different ones. And so two, also to kind of get it a little bit more straight and organized in my head, because I keep all the things I'm working on in a cupboard under the stairs, basically in the lounge, which is where I am right now, which is why I'm filming here, is because they're all in that room. So I thought might as well kind of just film where they are, and I might just show you that room as well. It's gotten a little bit overcrowded with my yarn stuff, so I really should sort that and organize that a little bit as well. But anyway, one thing at a time. Where was I? Yeah, it gives me a bit of a chance to kind of get it more organized myself, mainly in my head, because I think I have reached a stage a little bit where I have too many WIPs going at the same time. I do purposely like to have multiple WIPs going because I like swapping between different kinds of projects depending on what I feel like working at, whether I feel like working with something that's quite fine yarn or chunkier yarn, or something where I have to kind of think a lot. So if I'm making up an amigurumi piece or something, or something where basically can switch the brain off and kind of just, you know, work the hands. So I do like having multiple projects, but I think I have reached a little bit too many at the moment. So anyway, all that being said, I thought I would do this video just to go through them with you. And like I said, it gives me a chance to kind of just rememorize for myself what I actually have and stuff. And maybe it's not going to get really organized by doing that, because obviously I'm going to be pulling them all out of that room. I would like to say I was going to organize it then, but I'm probably just going to shove it right back in after. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So let's start with actually getting all the things out. Might just show you the room first. So you're going to see the secret, completely non-messy room. Right, so this door here is not it. This is out into the kitchen, and this is my husband's desk, which is also in the lounge. But we close this door, which we always keep open really, and then there's a secret door behind it, which when you open that, the first thing you see is a bunch of yarn and stuff related to it. Anyway, there's not just yarn in here, there's other stuff. We started out with other things and kind of, you know, for storage, and built some stuff on top, and then I started putting yarn in here and projects in here. So that's kind of all the stuff on top is my yarn really. There's a tent for the babies that we take in and out, so that's in here as well, which makes it look worse than it is. We have a couple of snacks, you know, out of sight, out of mind sometimes. So yeah, anyway, this is the situation. So all my yarn stuff really is here and some levels below. So now you've seen the secret room. I'm going to start getting stuff out so we can actually have a look at the WIPs that I am currently working on, and have been some of them for quite a while. So we are back on the sofa, and that was interesting. Let's just say a lot of the stuff isn't where it was before, as in a lot of stuff came tumbling down as I was trying to get this stuff out, because like I said, things have been just layered on top of each other. But anyway, I am currently surrounded by my WIPs, and some of them are my own patterns and designs, and some of them are tutorials that I followed. So I'm not really sure where to start. We can probably start with some of the stuff that's been around for the longest. So I guess we'll start with a bag. That's one of the things I definitely have had as a WIP for the longest, and this is my own design. So I just found a stitch that I really liked, and this was before I started doing any kind of wearables. Well, a bag is kind of a wearable, but I mean clothes more. It was pretty early on in my journey. So I've been crocheting for, in December coming up, it will have been 2 years. So this has been around for a while. It wasn't right at the beginning I made this, but it was more towards the beginning than it is now. So anyway, it's this bag here, if you can hear me. So it's this bag, and because after I discovered these bases and stuff, I got really into the idea of making bags, and I still want to make more bags. And as you can see, it looks finished, because the bag itself technically is, but it's missing the zipper, which is inside. So I have the zipper to match perfectly. This is the perfect color, I think, to match it, and the size should be good as well. I just haven't sewn in the zipper yet, so that is why this is a WIP still. Technically the crochet part in the bag itself is done, but I haven't finished it. This is the yarn that I used. I really like this yarn. This is some of the yarn that I got right at the beginning of my journey as well from Hobbycraft. But yeah, I really like this. It used a fair few balls because this is very chunky, but I really like the look of this stitch, and I really like how it looks on the bag. It's kind of like this herringbone but going all the way around. I feel like I achieved a pretty nice result. I just saw the stitch and learned how to do the stitch, and then I kind of turned it into in the round and in this bag on my own. And then I've never been 100% sure of the straps though. I do like them, but I also feel like they're just not quite right. So I like the way they look, and obviously they match because it's the same yarn. But I think it's mostly the wearability I'm not sure, because if you want to wear it, you kind of put them together, but then one gets kind of floppy and it's not the best because they're quite chunky for wearing it comfortably and things like that. So I'm not too sure about the straps, but at the same time I like them, so yeah. So anyway, like I said, the only thing left is sewing the zipper in, which is probably why I haven't finished it yet. But I have also a little bit been in two minds about whether to, which is why this is here as well, crochet like a little part to go along just the inside at the top that I then sew the zipper onto, instead of just sewing the zipper straight onto the bag, so it'll be closer, but so it's a bit more open at the top with the zipper. So that's part of the reason why, but I also just kind of haven't finished it because I then went on to other projects. So that is the first WIP. Let's put these back in there. But yeah, I really like this yarn. You could also get it in the bit thinner version, which I have as well. I've also made hat and scarf with, I think that's a thinner version of this yarn, but it's really nice. I like the way it looks. Subtle, but at the same time colourful, and but in like a subtle way, because it's like stranded into the yarn. If you won't focus on my face. Anyway, that's the first one. Next is a wearable, you could say, but it's like a shawl. And this was following a tutorial from Just Vintage Crochet. I got kind of obsessed with her channel for a while and still follow and still enjoy. So it's a shawl where you end up having kind of some sleeves on it, and I really liked this yarn when I got it. So you basically just make 3 large squares. I really like this yarn, so I kind of thought I wanted to use it for trying to make this shawl. So situation is, I have these 3 squares all finished. I think the ends are finished off as well. Yeah, looks like I did that. So all the squares are finished, which took quite a while because obviously they're quite big. I just basically need to, I'm going to say crochet and stitch them together, and then just do like the sleeve part. So again, I'm very close to being done. It's just that last step missing. You'll probably find that as a bit of a theme. Well, it kind of already is. But anyway, so I have the 3 squares. I just need to basically turn them into the shawl. The reason this isn't done yet, because we're talking a year plus that it's kind of been like this. Not been finished, but I've been working on it for a big part of that time. It took a while to get kind of all 3 finished. Like I said, I work on multiple things at a time, so I'm not like laser focused on one project till I finish it. So I work on things on and off. One reason, if I can use that excuse, I plan on filming shorts and reels, whatever you want to call them, TikToks, with a lot of these pieces as well, which I have a couple of ideas, and I just haven't gotten around to filming those things yet. but this is at a stage where I want to film it at this stage before then filming again after finishing it. I just haven't kind of gotten that done yet, so I keep kind of pushing off finishing this instead of just getting that filmed and then finish this. So that is kind of the situation, but also just because, yeah, attention wanders towards other things. Anyway, so that is the second one. Again, almost done, just missing the last bit, and some filming, like I said. But anyway, I really like the look of that shawl from watching her video. Again, it's a wearable, but it's not like a piece of clothes, so it's a bit easier, because it was before I started wanting to properly get into making crocheting clothes as well, which I have started now. But we'll look at that in a bit, because I do have a WIP with that. So that was number 2. What should we look at now? I think some, I was going to say amigurumi. I don't know if it quite classes as that, but regardless, I'll put it in that kind of category. So for a while, again, towards kind of the earlier part of my journey, I got quite obsessed with infinity cubes, the idea of crocheting them, because I found several tutorials on YouTube and stuff. So I have one that's upstairs that's finished. That's the first one following a tutorial. And then I wanted to make more. And then I kind of came up with my own design for one, and also wanted to make tutorials for it. So that's what I started working on a long time ago now. And I kind of got really far in the process again, and then I stopped. Basically kind of before the last finished step. So anyway, let's have a look. I made some basic ones, kind of got the idea to make basically a rainbow infinity cube. So I have a bunch of squares. These are of course yellow ones, and this is quite chunky, because after making the first one and then the idea of the other ones I wanted to make, I thought it'd be cool making quite a big one. So if you imagine, obviously a square would get quite big, and you're gonna have 8 of them, right? Yeah, it's 8. So it'll be quite a big one. I thought that'd be quite cool to do that. So that's one reason, but also thought for tutorial purposes it might be better to kind of do the tutorial in the thicker yarn, make it a little bit clearer, easier to see. But I have yellow, red, orange. This yarn is all from Hobby, by the way. It's the Amigo Chunky. Blue and green. I think that's it. 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, purple. And I think almost all the squares are finished being crocheted. Minus a few, like one in each color or something. No, that's not true. There wouldn't be a reason for that. A couple, like 2 or 3 squares, because I was going to use them to make tutorial with, video and written, stuff like that. So that's why I've just left out a couple of squares so I can make them in a tutorial or 2. And so obviously I haven't / can't start kind of connecting them yet, hence why I still just have a bunch of squares. But again, it's kind of the last step. I think part of the reason is because obviously it's a bigger test with the holding, doing the tutorial part before I can kind of finish it off. And I do also want to film some shots and stuff. But anyway, some of them still look to have yarn attached, I'm not sure. Anyway, so that is partly the reason why I haven't finished, but that is a long time ago. I've got to that point. We're talking a year plus, I think, something like that. And since it's just been laying around, and I've just started other projects instead. So that's the bigger ones. I do also have some other ones. I think, yeah, I made the colourful ones, so like a rainbow one, in small ones as well. Oops. Oh, one just disappeared. So small little squares, which is more or less the size I made the first one in, which the first one I just made in variegated yarn, the whole thing. I think I connected the squares with black though, if I remember right. But anyway, So I'm pretty sure all these squares are finished as well. I just haven't connected them together and made the final piece. Part of the reasons was what I'm going to do is also on the inside have little pieces of cardboard in the square shape to help it keep the shape basically when I'm obviously stuffing it, which is what I did with the first one as well. So I guess that's part of the reason I haven't quite finished it off yet, but it's just another excuse. So yeah, I have basically all the finished squares, the little ones in this little pouch. But then I also have some more squares in there because the idea I got from my own design to make an infinity cube out of crochet was to use these spiral cubes that I saw. I learned how to make with tutorials, but then I kind of came up with my own version that I kind of preferred. So I got the idea, how good would that look to basically use these to make an infinity cube out of. I thought that'd be really cool because the whole idea, infinity cube, and then these are like spirals, you could say infinite spirals. Obviously they're not infinite, but you know what I mean. I just thought that concept would be really cool. So I kind of came up with my own spiral, I guess you could say granny square, where I think the corners turned out really nice. I did it so you don't have gaps and holes in the corners. And again, I'm pretty sure I have all the squares I need also in that bag. They're all kept in here. I'm pretty sure I have all of them. Again, I just haven't put them together yet. Mine is actually, I might be missing one or two because again I was going to do a tutorial for this. So mine is that one or two. Again, I just haven't done that part. So again, that's another reason why this isn't finished, because I was going to do a tutorial and I've only started this YouTube channel very recently, so I've been wanting to do this and publish on my own designs and that for like a year plus, probably more like a year and a half now. But it's just taking me kind of this long to get everything going. So I've not really had somewhere to, you know, a goal where making tutorials and finishing things off for the purpose of doing tutorials, whether obviously YouTube and also to sell like written tutorials. I haven't had that kind of outlet yet, but now that I've started this finally, and also I'm gonna get somehow a shop somewhere set up so I can sell patterns and stuff like that and tutorials. Now I no longer have an excuse, do I? So I really just should get these finished off, even though it's not just, because it's still a lot of work. I guess the majority of the work is done because I have made most of the squares. And by the way, all of the squares for these, I think all of them, obviously minus the ones I haven't made yet, which is only a few for each, I've also finished off the ends. So I don't even have to do that yet because I've already done it. So it's not like I've made all these squares and I've yet to finish off the ends. I have actually done that part. So that's even less of an excuse. It's just making the last few squares for each of the designs, things, whatever. Because my thought was to, for the tutorial, obviously for this version, but for these, I was going to do basically two different ways of making the square. One in like granny square style stitch, and then one where it's just rows where you make the squares with. So that was my idea for the tutorial, to make it quite comprehensive. I guess now I don't have an excuse anymore. So yeah, I've kind of done most of the work, but obviously there's still quite a bit of work left for that part with making tutorials and all that goes with that. Anyway, that's another WIP, which, by the way, I forgot to say this video, it's not going to be a frog or finish kind of video, because all this stuff I'm going to finish. Some of it has just been on long pauses. So I don't have any plans to frog any of this. Maybe, minus one. But I'll talk about that when I get to it, possibly. Right, so that was the infinity cubes that I've also been hanging around for a while. Staying in the amigurumi-ish world, I have my giraffe, this guy, who is also, as you can see, pretty much done, except he's naked. So he just needs to get his, I was going to say squares, spots attached. Otherwise, he's finished. And he's also been just hanging around, laying in that room under the stairs for like a year plus ish, because this is a pattern I made way before that. I have already got one version because I have a couple of animals, amigurumi animals, that I've made my own designs, my own patterns. So this was number 2, no, number 3, sorry. I have a cow before this. I have shown that in a previous video. And I do also have a snake that I made that I'm really proud of. That was my very first one. Anyway, I'll show that in a different video or on socials, whatever. So anyway, what I start doing is I make them in acrylic yarn. It's the sheep just something. I can't remember what it's called right now. I'll see about finding out and then putting the text on the video what it's called. I really like to use that for amigurumi. So that's how I make it first, and then after I like to go through and basically make it again in chenille yarn, and I get all the chenille from Hobby. I really like that. So this is obviously the second version of him in that chenille yarn. I also like how the size gets different, but also how plushy it gets and soft. Now he just needs his spots, like I said, and I have already made, if not all, then most of the spots. I have a bunch of them right here. Obviously the tails are left because I'm going to use the tails to sew with, and there's more down here in the bag. And I just haven't got to the point of attaching the spots. Now, one excuse in my head is I'm going to film a short / reel / TikTok for him as well. I kind of got an idea that I thought would be quite funny, showing him before and after spots. So without spots, kind of naked, and then with spots, kind of a reveal type thing, I guess. But again, I just haven't got to the point of filming that yet. So I feel like I can't attach the spots until after I filmed that. And I haven't filmed it yet. So, hence why he's just laying in that little room all lonely, naked. Anyway, that is my giraffe. I also want to find names for all my animals. I like the idea of kind of cow. I have something that starts with the same letter, so like Calvin the cow, or like Jeffrey the giraffe, or something like that. So that's, I haven't named them yet, but I want to go along those lines, and I wouldn't mind suggestions. So if you have any ideas, by all means, let me know. So yeah, oh, by the way, his little tail as well, nice and cute. And these are what I call my bootylicious animals, because they have a voluptuous butt, if you can tell. If I get my face out of the way. The cow is the same, so I kind of thought it would be fun to make like a range of bootylicious animals, just for that bootylicious butt there. Anyway, so far there's the cow and the giraffe in that range. And I haven't released or shown any of them yet, really, hardly, except for the cow in a previous video once or something. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So yeah, this is basically the same reason unfinished project as pretty much all the others so far. Almost completely done, but just missing the last bit to finish off. So yeah, by the way, I also have him a couple of different lengths of, I'm going to say tail, I meant neck, because once you get to this point you just keep crocheting the same round over and over, so you can really make it as long as you want. The first one I made longer, I think, and this one's a bit shorter. I think because this yarn is a little bit less solid once you crochet it, even though I do it tight. I just didn't want to risk it being too wobbly, but you can make it however long you want. So anyway, that was the giraffe. What's next? Let's do the clothing item that I started also a while ago. I've been working on for a few months. It's going to be a top. I have talked about it in some previous videos, but I don't think I've shown anything about it. So first of all, this is a tutorial. I forget the name of the channel, but I will leave the name, picture, whatever, somewhere in the video, and probably the description box as well, and probably the link for the tutorial, because she does have several things that I like and do plan on making. So I think that's upside down, not that it matters. Anyway, so it's a top where I don't know what the stitch is called, if it is called anything, but I really like the look of what she was doing. So I thought I'll make one for myself. So this is what it looks like. Really like this stitch, if I could show you up close. And what I've used is linked double crochet because I don't like when there's the gaps and stuff between the stitches, even though there's gaps because of the design of the actual stitch. But anyway, I don't really like gaps between solid stitches, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. So this is basically how far I've got. You work from the bottom up, so the length, I think I'm not too far off from where I want to be, because she made it cropped in hers and tight fitting, which obviously I'm not doing. One, I do prefer my tops to be longer, kind of cover more, and obviously making a bigger size, so I'm just going off of like made to measure, doing my own measurements. And I also want it to be more loose fitting. But the thing is, I've now gotten to this point here, and I've been working on it for a few months, like I've said. Again, on and off, a few hours a night, sometimes a couple of days during the week, because obviously I work on multiple things at a time. So I do like 1 to 2 rows per session of working on it, kind of thing. But now that I've got to this point, probably because of the length, it's kind of sitting under the boobs. And the problem is, I have now started thinking something about this. And I think I also realized the problem. But I was thinking of actually making a video separately just about this project on its own. I guess I could mention it anyway. So like I said, first I did measurements. No, wait, brain, focus. Right, so I started getting the idea. Hers is just straight up and to about there, and it kind of is a little bit off the shoulder, which at first I wasn't too crazy about doing on myself. I think it looks really nice, but I wasn't going to do it on myself. But then I started thinking, why not do a little bit off the shoulder, a little bit further out than I normally would have my tops, instead of it being so tight all the time to the neck. So I was thinking that, but what I was actually planning, or started getting the idea, is instead of having just straight up and down, this is a very recent idea by the way, was to do, just imagine this is under the boobs now, a band under the boobs instead. So like a ribbing is what I'm imagining. So it would actually cinch in under the breasts, and then obviously go back to crocheting normally like this over the breast and up to whatever, where you add the sleeves and stuff like that. So I was thinking of adding that to the design. That's not in her tutorial, but I was thinking of adding that myself. So kind of changing it that way. But I could still do that from here. By the way, this is the project that I'm thinking about frogging. And this is several months work, and obviously it's quite a big piece of fabric that I've gotten to. But anyway, the reason for that is because I have to just double check it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to frog it. Like I said, I prefer my tops a bit on the longer side, and my idea was to then do this instead. So kind of add in the ribbing under the breasts to kind of cinch it in, because that's my narrowest point, and I've always preferred that style on me, where it cinches in under the boobs and then kind of flares out, but also obviously you then have it go further up. Now, I made this on my own measurements. The problem is, I took my measurements around thinking the widest part, the boob and like the stomach area. But obviously I don't want it to be cropped, I want it longer. But I forgot to take into account the hips. And that is absolutely my biggest area. The hips and like lower belly area. And I've gotten all the way to this point, several months of work, before that occurred to me. So I'm pretty sure this doesn't fit over my hips. So that area, that is for me the widest part. So hence why I'm thinking I'm going to have to frog this and basically restart. Because I'm not giving up on the idea, I still want to make it. I have the yarn for it, hopefully have the yarn that I need. So yeah, I'm a little bit at, not a standstill I guess, but in a way a little bit. But that is my reasoning, like frogging to restart, not to kind of scrap it. Just because I realized I took the wrong measurement to work off of, I guess. But then since thinking that. I think, well, if I'm doing it anyway, then let's make it right when I then do it and go through all that work. I was then thinking of making it even wider than I would, so it gets a bit more of a flowy, like moving thing look on the bottom, the lower part, and then when it cinches in under the boobs, it's a bit more of a flare on the bottom part. So I'm thinking making it bigger than it needs to be around the hip area to make it a bit more flowy, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's the situation with this. I'm gonna probably frog several months worth of work and restart. And it's also like, because I'm using Friends Cotton 86 for this one, and these are only 50-gram ones, so there's quite a lot of balls of yarn in this already, hence there's a lot of ends. I haven't weaved them in along the way, which I would prefer to normally do, but I wasn't sure. This is my first kind of gamut piece, and I thought in case I was going to refrog, in case I was going to frog or redo anything, I didn't want to have to deal with knots and stuff as well. So now I'm glad I didn't weave in the ends. But anyway, there's going to be a lot of balls to undo, because there's a lot of loose unwoven in ends, and you can kind of see a bunch of them because they have that easy start. It's at least easy to see where some of the ends are. Anyway, so yeah, that is a little situation with that. But I was thinking making a separate video kind of on the whole process of making this from now, that is, because I haven't filmed anything up till now. Anyway, upside down again, not that it matters. So yeah, this is what I mean though with, I like having different projects where some of the other things like amigurumi, you have to like quite think about as you're doing it, unless you're in a section where you can just keep repeating, like the neck for instance. But with this, in the beginning obviously I had to just get comfortable and familiar with the stitch, but it only took a couple of rows and it's in there, so I can literally just do this without having to think too much, and I don't have to get anything out like look at a tutorial, because it's in my head now, the stitch, and has been since a couple of rows in. So this is something I can get out when I just want to basically move my hands and not have to think too much. So that's why I like having multiple WIPs going at the same time, although I have reached a bit beyond what I should have. Anyway, that's that one. I'll pack that away after again. Well, undo it. Anyway, next, I think there's only a couple left. So these ones here, these are not really WIPs, but you could kind of call the project is a WIP. I have seen obviously loads of other people make scrunchies and stuff crocheted, and I have made some other ones which I'll show you probably at some other time, because it's some of my own designs I really like. I'm also going to do tutorials for those because I really like them. But they're like more, I guess, complex designs, if that makes sense. I don't mean complicated per se, but just like as opposed to regular scrunchies. So for instance, like Passionate Kelsey, she makes scrunchies with the what they call velvet yarn. I argue it's chenille yarn, but it's the same as chenille yarn, I'm pretty sure. So I like the look of them, they're really nice, but for me I feel like they're too big. They just seem too, probably just like for my hair, because I have pretty fine and thin hair. I have a lot of it, but it's quite thin and fine. Well, fine I guess is the word. Anyway, so for me I think they're just too much, too big for me. And also in general, like for my taste, I think they're nice and lovely, but they're just a bit too chunky for me. So I realized that Hobby, yeah, I get most of my yarn from Hobby, they have the Toucan chenille yarn. I think it's the most recent release that they have of chenille yarn. They actually have a fine version of that, which I have some of these here. I'll just show you the actual skeins of yarn as well, because I chose 4 colours to begin with to try it out. I kind of thought to try the same style of scrunchie, but with the fine chenille yarn. So these are the colours I chose to work with. obviously purple, and then stuff that matches purple, which, although everything matches purple, so anyway, that's not the point. So I've made some individual ones where it's just one colour per scrunchie, but I had these 4 colours to kind of play around with and try it out. And then I really wanted to try and make the ones where basically a scrunchie is 2 colours. So I basically made every colour combination that these 4 colours could make. And let's see if I can just get them on my hands. This is what I've ended up with. So it's safe to say I quite like them, how they turned out, and I went a bit scrunchie mad. So like I said, I have some other, at least one of each colour, where it's just 1 colour per scrunchie, but then every combination possible for these 4. And basically I like it so much that I've got several of the other colours they have available now. They don't have loads of colours available because I think it's still a fairly new release. I'm hoping they'll release more colours in time. But yeah, and I really like them. And I just kept making scrunchies. So the point of this being, these are not WIPs like I said, they're all finished. And I really like how they turned out. And I would love to kind of just make ones to sell because they're quite enjoyable to make. And of course I don't need this many scrunchies myself. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the point of being, these are not WIPs, these are all finished, but because I then got a bunch of the other colours that they have, the overall project is a WIP, because I'm just going to use the other colours to make more and do more colour combinations. So just showing you each one here. So basically the inner part is 1 colour, and then just the outer edge is another colour. I really like how they turn out. So you can see it's just opposite ones to each other as well. We have 2 left. Now I haven't got all the colours, there's just a couple that I didn't quite find necessary, but have got almost all the colours, so there's a lot more scrunchie making to be done, which is why these are WIPs, as in the project, because I'm going to be making more. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with those. It's a nice little kind of mindless project as well. You don't really have to think too much about it while you're doing it. And they're fairly quick in the sense of they still take some time, but quicker than most projects when you're talking crochet and stuff like that. So that is kind of a project WIP more than anything else. Right, so I think the final WIP that I have is also another project. A couple of them are actual WIPs-ish. Well, I guess technically they're all WIPs because I haven't finished off the tails or the ends on any of them, which isn't exactly a good thing because I hate when you're making something and you're making loads of the same thing, or a big piece of, I don't know, cloth or something, and you leave all the finishing off and finishing the ends off until the end, and then you have to go back and do it all. I hate doing that, but I kind of did that with 1 or 2 of the square thingies, all them for the infinity cubes that I showed you before. I did that with 1 or 2 of them, and I was just sat at one point and just finishing off ends for hours and hours. So I don't like doing that, so I don't know why I did that with this. And I've still got loads more of these to make. I think I just got so absorbed in the designs I wanted to try out that once I finished one, I was like, just on to the next one instead of finishing off the ends. So I'm going to pay for that at some point, no doubt. Well, I will. Well, there is one as a WIP. Anyway, what it is coasters. So I got the idea to make, actually these come from scrunchies. I started with some of these as scrunchies, which are the ones I mentioned before as well, the kind of more elaborate scrunchies rather than the more typical scrunchies that I just showed you. Typical scrunchies that I just showed you. But the same kind of designs I thought would work for coasters. So I've been making a bunch of coasters. So I started with these because I had this yarn already I thought would work well for it. And they are coasters with design basically around the outer edge. So these have cute little hats going all the way around, and obviously I used variegated yarn for all the smaller ones, and I am also planning on doing tutorials, both video tutorials here and written tutorials to buy when I get all that set up and ready for all these ones. That's kind of also the purpose of what I'm doing. So that's the little hat ones. I learned how to make this style of hat from a video tutorial. I do not remember the name. I'll try and find it and link it or something. But then I kind of modified it to my own and to make it fit what I wanted it to be, and turned it, like I said, scrunchies I have made, and then also these coasters is the word. This is the current WIP one, which was another hat one, because each one of the designs I'm using a different yarn color, you could say. These are all variegated, but a different version of variegated, but all the same yarns. This is really confusing talking like this. Like, it's the same yarn, but there's different variations of the variegated colorways. So yeah, anyway, so that was the hats. So these are obviously like drink coasters, meant to be like glass, I don't know, cups, tumblers, whatever. That was the hats. I'm pretty sure that's what I started with. Then I made these ones here. These are leaves, so I thought this colorway would be perfect. Again, same yarn, just a different colorway. Now some of them are a bit curled up, but just needs blocking. But that's the leaves one. Kind of just came up with this myself. So you have the leaves pointing in different directions, so you could obviously make them point in the same direction all the way around, or mix them up like I did. So that's the leaves. We have flowers. I did the, like I said, none of them have the ends woven in yet. For some reason I thought it would be a good idea not to do that as I went. Again, cute little flowers all around the edge. And what I also thought while making these would be kind of cool was if you make the main part of the coaster one colour, or like a neutral colour, something black, or I don't know, something, but then made just the decorated edge a different colour, or maybe for this, each flower could be a different colour. Well, that's a lot of colours, but maybe a couple different colours along the way. But anyway, that was just some thoughts. Then I made these star ones that I'm also really happy with. I really like how they turned out. The little stars there, all the way along the edge. And again, I like this colorway, obviously. There's purple in it, so hello. And then finally, while I'm making some of them, I kind of had the idea to make butterflies as an option. So this is the most recent one that I made, and I'm happy with how it turned out after just experimenting a little bit. So that is the butterfly one. So all these butterflies all the way along the edge. Now, what I then thought as well was these are obviously, like I said, drink coasters, and that's using, it's like a DK weight yarn. Now you could use whatever kind of yarn, and obviously you could also make it whatever kind of size, but what I also did, I thought would be kind of cool, was to, some of these I haven't even cut off from the, I'm going to say reel, from the ball of yarn yet. Anyway, I thought it'd be cool to make the coasters but for like pots and pans. So for these I used lily sugar and cream, and I also made the actual base of the coaster bigger to fit, I'll probably say, an average pot size pot and pan. So obviously the hats I made in red. Again, you can always just block it. But again, so we just have, when you have a pan sitting on this, you have all these cute little hats sticking out underneath. So of course the hats I had to make in red. And then what else do we have? The leaves I obviously had to make in green. Again, pointing in opposite directions. Just kind of liked the idea of that, making it a little bit more organic. And then, oh yeah, another leaves in variegated, because I kind of wanted to make all of them in variegated and solid color. Couldn't think of what that was called, but that's the variegated one. And we have flowers. Let's do the solid one first. So cute little flowers all the way around. And then we have the variegated one. Again, purpley colours. Oh, I forgot to show you the variegated for the hats. Is this pinky one. And then the stars, of course, had to be yellow. I'm really happy with all of them. And then, like I said, the butterfly was the most recent one that I made the design of. And I actually literally finished this off last night. So this is the first butterfly one of the Lily Sugar and Cream, so the bigger pot and pan coasters. And it looks like that. So I still get to do the variegated on that. And on stars as well, I think. Yeah. I still need to get the yarn for it because I don't have that yarn yet. And I just want to keep making them. Now my thought is, obviously I'm going to make tutorials for all this. Both here but also to sell. And I was debating on what to do it with, like what yarn and stuff. But, like I said, for the drink coasters, I've only done them in this variegated yarn. I really wanted to make them in solid colours as well, like I'm obviously doing in the bigger ones. So for that, I kind of wanted to make sure the yarn that I was going to use was going to be the same or very similar thickness, so it ended up being the same size without having to do too much, if any, ideally, editing of the pattern. Like I said, you could make the actual base of the coaster whatever size you want. I stop at any point and it'll work. But I just wanted to kind of have some solid examples to give in the tutorials. So anyway, what I got was, I don't have it here, but again, the Friends cotton, I think, but the 8/4 from Hobby. And from what I was able to find out, is pretty much the same thickness, or similar enough that it should turn out ideally more or less the same size as these. So that is what I'm thinking that's what I'm going to use to make the tutorials with, because I wanted to kind of, for at least the video tutorial, but probably for both, like use these as the example and then just kind of mention that you can make them in this size as well and use other yarn. Basically use whatever yarn you want, but obviously you'll achieve different sizes and results depending on the size of the yarn. So anyway, I'm going to be using solid colours from that Friends Hobby 8/4 for the drink coaster ones as well, and I think that's what I'm going to use for the tutorials, like I said. So that's going to be, I think I have red or pink for the hats. I haven't quite decided. I like both red and pink for the hats. It both works. Green for the leaves. I think I did purple, like a richer, darker purple for the flowers. Stars, I'm pretty sure yellow. And the butterflies possibly was like a lavender, I think. Anyway, I have just literally received that yarn, so I could get on with doing those as well. But also I kind of want to just keep making these. I also would like to end up making full sets of all of them, so like each design has a set of say 4 coasters. Maybe the big ones a set of 2 of each or something, 2 or 3 of each. So obviously they're not like huge projects, but they do still take a bit of time, especially working with the thinner yarn. Not that it makes a difference, because the thicker yarn is just bigger and you actually add more rows, so technically the thicker yarn takes a bit longer. Anyway, so they take a little bit of time each because obviously there's a bit of design to it, so it's not like, in my opinion, a 1-hour project, at least not for me. But I'm not the fastest crocheter either, but anyway. But they're also not like a whole piece of clothing you're making. But if you do want to make 4 or 6 or something of each to make a set, then obviously that'll add to it. So some of them I have 2 or 3 of, and some of them I have 1 of, so I still have quite a few to make. And obviously these as well. And I still need to get some of the yarn for this. I think 2 colours I'm missing, colorways. I think it's variegated for both of them, I think. Anyway, so that's the plan with these. Still a fair bit of work to do on them, and like I said, I'm wanting to do tutorials for that as well. So I think that's all my current WIPs, more than it should be. So individual pieces, projects, yeah. A lot of it I just need to get finished off. Like basically the final steps is to finish something off. But again, on some of them, that part is also a bigger project in itself, like doing tutorials and filming pictures and all that stuff. But I would like to kind of get some of them done, because I think it's a little bit too many at the moment, especially with some of them being so close to being done. Like, just get them done. So they're not a WIP, so they're actually finished. Anyway, that's my current WIP situation. So I thought I would just share that with you. I hope you enjoyed. If you have a few WIPs, then you don't have to feel bad, because there's a lot more people out there with a lot more probably. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to check out my previous videos. And obviously, like, share and subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video.